Now, let's talk about third-person character and what we can do with it. In this case, third-person character is our Unreal Mannequin that's provided to us by default. I will explain some of the parameters that you can add into it and some useful components that we can use for our actors, and perhaps we may even put few as decoration in the level. If you go back to your content folder, third person, blueprints, you will find your third person character. Open it, and you will notice there's a lot of things here for jumping, movement, enhanced input actions, which will not be explained in this course, but they are the Unreal's new way of adding input into actors. It's a topic for the next course. And here we have our viewport, our character's collision box for capsule component, and our camera that follows the character, our character movement component. So this is what we are going to focus on today. We have character movement component here, and if you take a look at the details panel, you will see a lot of things you may find useful. So we have our acceleration, we have our movement speed, swimming speed, etc. We will not be focusing on each one of them. What we need is our speed. So we have max walk speed of 500 at the moment, which I do not find particularly high enough to navigate this huge area. It feels very slow. Let's increase it. So let's increase it by, let's say, and make it 1500 and make it 2000. Let's see, play now. Now our character is moving much faster, and we can perhaps even score something, and when we hit something our movement speed drops a bit, but we can catch our balls and navigate them. Let's try it again. We can now find our different gate and do it again for yes, and we can repeat this as many as we want and fill the whole screen visible. Now you may notice we now have max walk speed of 20k as I put it in previously, but if I Control Z and put it back to 500 or Control Y, the differences here is huge. The fact that you can just go at a higher speed, higher and higher speed, is because we have a certain amount of acceleration, and unless I hit something, it will drop. We are going to decrease max speed by, let's just divide it by 2. I believe that number was too high for our purposes. So let's see, and we still have a high enough speed, but what if you want to have a certain amount of acceleration but don't want to instantly go to a highest speed possible? This is where our acceleration comes in. And if you take a look at our acceleration, our max acceleration is currently 1500. If we put it into a higher number, let's say 5000, compile, press play, we will get instant boost speed, and it will go higher and higher and higher until we reach our max speed, which I believe is already too high. So let's put the acceleration to 3000 and make sure our max speed is nowhere near this ridiculous number. If you reset it, it is very slow, so let's put it like, what can we do here? By default, it was, I believe, 500. And let's multiply it by, let's say, 6. And our max acceleration can be multiplied by 2. We have additional options here for gravity, how much gravity should apply to this character. We could reduce it, which would let us jump higher. And our drop will be slower. What we can do, we can increase our jumping velocity. So let's double our jumping velocity. And let's say triple it. Compile it, press play. And now we have a Superman jump, and we may actually jump out of bounds, which is not something I would like to have. So let's reduce our jumping by 3, default it, and let's do it 800 instead. So let's go back. We have high. I would like to have high enough jump to jump over the balls, but not high enough that I can go out of the level. I could always add a blocking wall on top of the level, but we are not going to do that as we purposely limited our jump distance. We have air controls that lets us adjust how much we can control the character while it is moving around. And we have a lot more settings for flying, for swimming, for physics interactions. And this is what I want to focus on. We have a game where we are moving physics-based objects. So we are going to hide all of these options we don't actually need. And we are going to focus only on our physics. As you can see, there's a lot of options here that would take forever to go through. So let's just search for physics. And we have our physics interactions options. We have enable physics interactions, which is true, we need it. And what we have for Oblivion bounce into a physics option. So when we hit an object, or collide with it to be specific, we apply a force of 500 to it. If we increase it to something like 5000, compile and play, and we interact with an object, let's say, it's getting much more force applied than before. And if we add a ridiculous amount here, let's say, what it will happen? They will just instantly evaporate the moment we touch them, which may look funny, but it's not ideal when everything you touch explodes and goes into oblivion in a second. But I do want some extra impact when we touch the spheres. As such, we are going to press play, and let's see. Our force is now enough to drag down multiple balls at the same time, and we can just move around. And with our increased speed, we can repeat this as many times as we want. Now, here we could also click on this, and if we increase minimum touch force, essentially the minimum amount of force we can apply to something like, let's say, 2000, and let's say it's also our max now. If we compile and press play, we will get this weird interaction. We are not actually doing much different. You may be wondering, what is this in this case? Is this the amount of force applied, not the push force? As such, it's not exactly the same thing. It is a calculation based on amount of force. If you are trying to add additional force per kilogram, which is useful for physics simulation, but it's not something that will help when it comes to pushing actual objects. Let's make sure we still have our options enabled as we wanted, and we will now exit this section, and we are going to talk very briefly about objects components, actor components, to be clear. So we created few blueprints already, and let's create one more. And this one we are just going to make an actor. We are going to call it test for now because we are not going to keep it. We are going to add a mesh, and let's say we add a static mesh here, and we can make this static mesh into let's do this pyramid. Let's also add a material for it, just because why not. We compile this, and if we click add here on top, you will find a lot of components you can add. We have AI elements, we have audio cues, we have additional shapes, camera, spring arm, etc. All of them are very useful and they're a topping of their own. But what we are going to talk about here are movement. We have floating power, interrupt movement, projectile movement, and rotating movement. Projectile movement, when applied to an actor, let's go and put it back to the level. If you have a projectile movement here applied, we go to initial project speed, and let's say project speed is 10,000. Let's make it a smaller number so you don't have trouble seeing it. And max speed is like 2000, same point as before, acceleration and max speed. And what we can do is we can disable gravity on this if we want to, so that it never has gravitational pull or anything, but we are going to leave it as it is and press simulate. These events are going to give us a lot of errors as there is no player character, but you may have noticed instead of staying in one place, it pushed itself forward. The reason why this happening is because of projectile movement. This is regarded as a projectile, and if we reduce the gravity scale to 0, compile, and press play, this will just move forward and to infinity, as it doesn't have any projectile gravity applied to it, and unless this actually hits something and destroys itself as a projectile, which you would need to add in the blueprint section of the projectile, this will just go infinitely move in one direction. This is quite useful for making games, obviously, where you want to have a projectiles, bullets, perhaps some kind of sphere or objects if you are making 2D, not 2D, like AA games where you want to have some interactable actors that you can spawn and destroy, and they need to move in a certain direction. You can use just projectile movement. Now let's take a look at the other movement option. This one is rotating movement, and what rotating movement does is, it rotates in a certain rate at a certain direction. So if we go back to the level and let's make it bigger. Let's make it much bigger. And let's press play. You'll notice it is moving around in its space. You can use this as a decoration in the environment if you want some objects to just rotate. Or you can use it as a gameplay element, it's up to you. But all this does is just rotate the actor in one place. It is most commonly used for pickups, such as coins, health drops, med kits and stuff in the games where you have this pickup just rotating in one place. This can be used for purpose of not, you don't have to add additional elements to your blueprint other than just rotating movement to rotate them around, and that's a time saver for a very simple thing which usually takes a lot more because you need to call an event that rotates an object in a certain radius in a direction every frame of the game. You can just skip all that and just add this. So if you need something to just rotate in one place, use rotating movement instead. You don't have to use complicated vector math. And that's pretty much all. We need to remember that Unreal is a very, very expensive tool for game development. It has everything, like it has so many things we have not even talked about, even mentioned. I tried to cover as much as I could, and while keeping it to minimum like complexity, but you all need to start somewhere to learn this engine, and to move forward you need to first of all learn these very basic skill sets, and what's more important, you need to understand how actors, how code, how everything in the 3D world interacts with each other, so you can engineer your way to what you are trying to actually create. Don't start with overly complex ideas. Even the simplest things in games are usually a complicated process to integrate, and some very complicated things may actually be simple. It's counterintuitive in most cases. The hardest thing in this prototype we made was actually the light interactions. The fact that we had to do them so many times in so many variations is just a testament how difficult the light systems in all games are in general. Usually you wouldn't even want to have this many lights as it is performance heavy, and in this level the simplest thing to make was actually the gameplay element itself, which was just shoving the balls into the gateway and making them explode. The moment you add any amount of complexity to your level, as having multiple lights interact with some other actor, etc., the game suddenly becomes an engineering task where you are trying to make sure you don't use a lot of resources, and at the same time you are trying to make something that will look good, will be fun, and for all intents and purposes your dream game. There's a lot more to cover. As such, we will be releasing intermediate and expert level courses in the future, and we will also have individual courses for some subjects that require their individual courses to go through them, such as material, lighting by itself, animation, which we did not even talk about in this course, how to create animations, how to apply animations, how to do AI inside Unreal. And by AI, I mean not only AI for movement of the characters in the game, but also AI itself, like AI generative node-based programming. You can do a lot of things in Unreal other than games. You can do film production, you can do simulations for scientific reasons if you want. And Unreal keeps adding more and more functions to the engine, so there's always new topics to explore, and there's a myriad of opportunities for yourself to improve. To keep in mind, you don't have to know everything in Unreal. You need to understand Unreal to a degree where you can work with it, but unless you're an indie game developer or you are trying to be an indie game developer, you don't have to know every aspect of the engine. What I would recommend for you to start learning the basics, And after you are confident in your basics, start experimenting around. Try to create something interesting. Search for information if you don't understand something or if you need a proper guideline for it. We always are happy to answer your questions, and feel free to check out our other new courses. There will be always more to learn. And at one point, you may need to decide whether you are going to specialize in a certain field in the engine and work as a team with other people to develop your game, or you are going to scope down your game and work on it alone. We did not touch upon using marketplace assets in this course, as I want to be use as little outside interference as possible. Because when you are learning, it is important to learn the basics before you can jump on and download a complicated master material that you will not even understand even if you see it. Again, feel free to experiment. There's nothing wrong with that, but make sure your basics are solid. My name is Eljun Abdullahzadeh, and I am happy that you have finished my course. And I am happy to help new game developers and perhaps just casual Unreal Engine users improve their skill set. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section, and I would be more than happy to see your own creations, and no reason to be shy about it. Anything you share is better than nothing. Thank you for your time, and I hope I will see you all in my new lectures. Few additional topics for anyone who are interested in game development. When you are starting the game development process, it may seem very complicated and it may seem very scary, and it is complicated, but you don't have to be scared of it. The game development process is a very complex interaction of different fields, such as math, creativity, artistic representation of your own taste, coding skills combined with animation, modeling, production qualities like planning, story writing. There's a lot of things in a single game, and quite honestly, the game may be as complex and as difficult as you want it to be, or as simple as you want it to be. You don't have to make a difficult game to learn how to make a game. It's better to start with something so small. And the biggest reason why a lot of game developers are having a lot of issues is poor planning, scoping too wide, and trying to do too much at once. And in the process of this project, as they are developing this game, they lose motivation, they waste time, they lose money, and all of this is part of the journey they are trying to complete to get into the final goal of being a game developer, perhaps releasing a very successful game and getting rich. Or you may be just trying to make a game you yourself, or you would like to play, or some other people you would like to show your game to. Regardless of your reasoning on what you are trying to make, when you begin learning any game engine, not limited to Unreal Engine specifically, but still applies, start small. Pick a simple idea, pick a simple game that you can finish in ideally few months, at most half a year. Finish it. It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be perfect. you can have as many bugs and mistakes as you want. Just make sure the game has a start, a middle, and a finish, and everything is more or less working as it should. And that alone is a big achievement where most of the game developers fail. Releasing a game, even a bad one, is an achievement when you are doing it alone. It's a different topic if you're part of the company and you are, as a big company with hundreds of workers, you are trying to make a game. That's a different topic. But when you are learning and where you are an indie game developer starting, just don't straight away jump to MMORPGs or multiplayer games or overly complicated mechanics for your game. Just start simple. Make a horror game, make a Mario, make a platformer, which can be complicated, but just keep it simple. The game development process and may be one of the hardest fields in general, because it requires a lot of disciplines that don't usually interact with each other. You may need a very jazzy music for the game you have in mind, but you may not have the skills to produce that music. So you will have to either learn how to make that music, in addition on how to make the game yourself, or you may need to buy assets which are not always exactly what you want to be, or which is the most reasonable option in most cases, find someone who can make that music and is willing to help you in your project. You don't have to do it alone. You can always get some people to help you. It may cost you money unless they're your friends or family. And you need to remember that while the games themselves are fun to play and easy to look at and be like, oh, next big game, I will make a better copy of an already existing game and make it much better than that one. I will take the same ideas, same principles, make them a bit more different, be more complex, and make it bigger. Someone already did it before me. How hard can it be? That's a nice pitfall to jump into. You assume it's easy to do, but in reality, there's a lot of work put in the background of a lot of games that just seem simple. You may take a look at simplest games are usually shooter games from the implementation and horror games. You have a guy who shoots other people, and you may be thinking, okay, all I need is a guy who moves around, a gun, a bullet, and other people to hit for the. And you may be assuming this is all you need. In a sense, it is. But when you start to implement this into your game, and as you are trying to polish your game, you will notice a lot of things don't feel right. You shoot a gun, but it doesn't feel as impressive. You look at the environment, something is missing from it. This is because a lot of details in a lot of games are not really apparent at the first glance. For example, in the previously shooter example I just mentioned, the gun may have an impact frame when you shoot it. It may be the sound, it may be the VFX, it may be the camera shake you get when you fire the gun. The environment may need more wind, maybe some additional foreigns or variation in it. AI may seem like stupid as they are just walking at you and shooting while standing in place, while a professional made game may have an AI that is trying to actively take cover and shoot at you from a better position or run away from you when they are low on HP or hide. Sadly, there's a lot of games that ignore a lot of aspects of the game just by trying to copy on already existing games. But you don't have to copies already existing game genres or even game elements. Feel free to experiment and do whatever you want. There is nothing stopping you from making a Game of Thrones kind of game and all actors being candy, or stones, or rocks, or donuts, for all like we care. And you can just take this weird concept and make it into a game. You can make it into a shooter, you can make a tactical RPG, etc. While this idea I just mentioned may be complex to implement, there is no real reason why you can't, other than the amount of effort and time you're going to put into it. You have full creative freedom to create whatever you want. Don't get stuck on just copying a template or someone else's work. Just get creative. Get passionate about what you are trying to make. Don't try to copy someone else's work. This is not a school, this is not an exam. You don't need to pass a certain grade. And you have no way of doing it just by copying someone else's work directly. You may try to improve someone else's work by getting an inspiration from their work and improving it to the point where now it's no longer their work, it's your work. And the next person who is going to play a game will look at your work and be like, this is impressive, I will copy it. And they will copy your game elements. And they will most likely fail, because nothing beats the original in most cases. To keep it simple and short, get creative, don't be afraid to experiment, no real reason to copy-paste other people's work, and don't overscope in your projects, and just start something and finish it, and the very first game you finish making will feel very different, and it will most likely not be good, it may not sell, it may get bad reviews. Don't take it too hard, take it with a professional attitude, improve the criticisms and use it as a fuel to further improve your game. Don't give up in the middle of the way. This is a very long journey you are stepping into, but I believe it's worth journeying this path, and we can journey it together. Thank you for your time. I hope I see you in the next lecture, and I hope, even if it's not in the lecture, I will see your work down the line. As such, feel free to share your projects if you're working on any, or just as samples in the social platforms. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I am more than happy to help. As a fellow developer, it would be my honor to help you all out in making something cool. See ya and have fun.